I am really excited about today's episode. If you've been watching lately, not watching, but listening lately, I've been trying to do a few more interviews and kind of pulling on those people around me to really gain their expertise and talk about their stories. And we titled this episode, From Iran to the Golden Gates, the Golden Gate Bridge with Alex Khodadad. And Alex is sitting here with me right now, and I really wanted to talk to him because his story is so interesting. When you see a title about From Iran to the Golden Gate Bridges, it's not something you see all the time, and probably a lot of you were probably, what does that even mean? So let me take a moment first and say, Alex, my man, what's going on, man? You want to say hello to everybody?
Hello. Hope everybody's doing well.
Awesome. So Alex is, very successful. He runs what he calls a Navy SEALs team in we'll call it the San Francisco Bay Area, because really you're kind of just outside of that, right?
Correct.
But he's also one of our coaches, and one of our extremely valued coaches. I mean, if you're in our group on Facebook, Jared James Coaching, you see him posting in there all the time. They see you doing live videos. They see you, and I think you had stepped out earlier, but we're doing this from our Jared James Advance right now in Nashville. And I had kind of made mention when I was talking about your session. I really kind of promoted your session, and I was telling everybody, you always come from a good place. As you always talk about loyalty, but you always come from a place of contribution. How can I contribute? How can I help? And it's something that I really admire about you, right? So first off, I just want to say thanks for being on, because I'm really looking forward to this and getting into your story a little bit. But obviously the title of this starts off and it says, from Iran to. So why don't you give people just a little bit of your background and what that looked like, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Sure. First of all, thank you, Jared, for giving me the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Of course, man. You're
a great friend and a mentor. So I came to America when I was 10 years old. I came with my mom.
Okay.
Coming to America, due to her language barriers, my mom, she was a nurse back home in Iran. So when we came to America, due to a language barrier, she had to get a job working at a convalescent home. And that was a huge down. There's nothing wrong with working at a convalescent home, but here was a nurse that, because of language barrier, she couldn't work. So anyways, she started, working at a convalescent home, and me, with my mom, because it was, my parents had got divorced when I was 2 years old.
So you, at this point, you live with your mother.
Yep.
Father's not there, or father's still in Iran?
Father was in Iran. Father had been remarried. He was in
And
Iran.
What is the language in Iran?
Farsi.
Okay, it's called
Farsi.
Farsi.
Yep.
Okay, and so when you say language barrier, you guys come to...
She couldn't speak English.
Yes, I mean,
well.
she came here and it's like, I don't speak fluent English at this point.
She didn't. She couldn't speak fluent. And of course, if you wanted to be a nurse here, you had to go to school. You had to go through all that.
What was the point of coming to America? How did that happen?
So what happened was in 1979, there was a revolution in Iran. So I was 7 years old. I witnessed the revolution, and I witnessed the war. Saddam Hussein. 1979, the revolution happened. 1980, Saddam Hussein invaded Iran.
It was more than just TV. It was like...
And back then, there wasn't CNN, it was BBC, but it was on radio.
Yeah.
So I remember at nighttime, it's kind of like I watch these movies now, but I've lived that.
That's my point. It's not like for you, this is literally what I was just saying. It's like for a lot of people, it's TV, but this was real.
I lived it, and I remember the sirens. Like in San Francisco, noon, there's always this loud sirens that goes out, and that siren that goes out is for it's lunchtime.
Yeah.
But in Iran, when that siren went out, it meant that Saddam Hussein was bombing the capital. And literally, all the lights would go out, and you would hear all these houses shake.
Jeez.
I mean, living that, it was like,
And is this why your mother got you out of there?
She's like,
we can't stay here.
We couldn't stay there. See, what happened was we came to America in 1977. The Shah was still in Iran, the king, right? And then, but there was no reason to live here. So my mom came here. We went back. But then when we went back, and then we tried to come back, literally a year, 2 years later.
So you just came to visit?
We just came to visit.
Like vacation?
Yeah, because U.S. and Iran had a great relationship. You just got a visa and just came. My uncle lived here too. So then we just came, and then because of the whole war and stuff, my mom said, we're not going to do this. So literally, I was in 5th grade. My 5th grade had just started, and they came to my classroom, and they said, your mom needs to see you. And I remember, I never forget, it was probably like, say, September or October. Right. So I go to the principal's office, And then they said, your mom needs, wants to take you. So, and I said, Mom, what's going on? She goes, we're going on a vacation. And I go, what do you mean a vacation? She goes, don't worry, just get in the car. So we got in the car, and we lived close to our grandma because we lived with my grandma because my mom was always working and stuff. So we went to the house, and she said, we're going to go on a vacation, say goodbye. She didn't even tell my grandma that we were leaving because it was in the height of the war. And what happened was they had shut down all the airports because there was bombing happening all the time.
So you had to up and leave your family, and she doesn't even tell her mother?
She doesn't tell her mom, her sisters.
Nobody, just had
not
to
even my
abort,
father. Just out. So she goes, we're going on vacation. So, and I'm not going to get 10 years old. I'm going to question my mom. So I'm like, okay. So we get in the car. Next thing I know, we're at a different city. And next thing I know, we're in the border of Iran and Turkey. And if you know anything about the Kurds, or if you study the Middle East, the Kurdish people, they don't really have their own country, but they're between the border of Iran, Iraq, and Turkey. They have their own area there, which they've been trying to go independent. So she had planned this for months. And when we got there, she had actually paid smugglers to smuggle us out of Iran. Just imagine, here's a single...
And this is why she doesn't say anything to anybody, because if any word gets out at all, it's over.
That's it. So
she's worried for your safety.
Yeah. So we're there for 2 weeks, and then they hide us in this little village, and then at nighttime, they put us on these horses, right? And then there's these smugglers, literally with guns. And imagine a war is going on that time.
Yeah.
Not as north, but more in the mid, but there's bombing everywhere. So we get on these horses, and we're going on elevation of, I don't know, 15, 20,000. I mean, I'm talking big elevation, right? And we almost died there. And they could have killed my mom. Yeah. My mom had $10,000 on her back in 1980. She had franc on her. She had mark. Because there was no euros back then. It was franc and mark. It was German and franc. So anyways, then we get to Turkey. We stay in a village. Then we go to Istanbul. We stay in Istanbul for 6 months. And we're there, me and my mom. Then she calls my grandma. My grandma's upset because I was very close to my grandma.
I was going to say, I thought you guys were close.
Yeah, what's going on? Why did you take? So anyways.
She has no idea what happened.
No. Then my father finds out. He gets upset.
She must have been relieved to hear.
Yeah, exactly. So he helps. And then after 6 months, what happened was my uncle had petitioned for us to get green card to come to America.
Right.
My mom's green card got set. They're like, you're set. Just go when you come to United States, San Francisco at the airport, they'll give you your green card. Back then, it wasn't as difficult as it is now.
Right.
But your son, it's not ready yet. You need to put him in one of these schools until we can figure out. And she goes, are you kidding me? I'm not leaving my child here. It's just not going to happen.
How does that happen?
So the last minute, they were able to fix it, and they did, and then we got here. So we get here in America, literally right when we get here. Few months later, we stay with my uncle for a few months, and then we move out and we go live with another lady. She had a daughter. We live in one room, for 2 years.
Right.
And while she's living there, she gets a job at a convalescent home. Me wanting to help and having that entrepreneur heart like I did, like my father.
How old are you at this point?
I'm 10.
Okay.
So about a year later, I'm 11 years old. So then I get my first job selling subscription to the USA Today.
Nice.
Knocking on doors, right?
I had the best sports page in the business. I used to love the sports page.
Yeah. So I'm 11 years old, making $100 a week, Jared. And that was a lot of money back in 1983.
It's a lot of money.
Okay. 1983. So, and then get that job, then we started, my mom started working and I was working, and we did better and better and better and better because my mom didn't want any handouts.
Yeah.
She didn't want no government help. That's just in our culture.
Right.
The Persian culture has a very the pride. So like for example, when we say Iran, to some of them they actually get offended. They're like, no, we're not from Iran. We're Persian.
Interesting.
Yeah. So anyways, because of our background.
Right.
So then I get it. I put myself through school. Then my brother.
And you're living where now?
With my mom. We finally got a 1-bedroom apartment
in San Fran.
In the Bay Area. Yes.
In the Bay Area,
yeah.
like right outside. Yeah.
So 1985, we get our own place, right? Just imagine 1985. Here I am now making $150 a week selling Oakland Tribune because I went from USA
Living large, yeah.
Living large, and I'm feeling like I'm a man, right? I'm 14 years old, okay? I'm feeling like a man. And I remember we got subscription to HBO because there was a cable box back then, right?
Yeah.
And it was the best feeling. I mean, it was just something. I mean, buying a TV for my mom, I felt awesome that I was able to do this for my mom.
You were contributing, and you were
contributing, just giving to my mom, right? Because I loved her more than anything. And then a couple of years later, we get another place, and my brother comes to America because my dad had kept my brother in Iran.
Right.
My mom got him, so he came. Then he comes to America, and then now we fast forward. I go to college, I go through all that, and then now it comes to 1999. 1999, I had a very successful, I was going to college, San Francisco State, just had graduated, but I had a very successful art business. So all the community colleges, all the grocery stores, what we would do is we would have all these posters, and when you went to college, they would sell posters and stuff. Right. So I pretty much had monopolized that whole area. So, and we did very well. But then in 1999, while I was doing that, I wanted to get my education. I had got my accounting degree, but I wanted to get my master's, but then I didn't want to go 2 more years, so I wanted to get my CPA. So I had no choice but to get a job, public accounting firm, so I can get my CPA. So I got it. It killed me, but I got it.
Right.
While I'm doing that and while I'm building that business too, right? But by that time, I buy my first duplex. Feeling like a man. My mom lives in one. I live in the other one. And it was really and it was awesome. So then, and in 1999, so one of my friends, I meet him at an event, and this was a friend that we used to work together as kids at Oakland Tribune. And when I met him, I said, "Hey, Alistair, how you been? Where you been?" So we started talking, and then and he was doing very well. He was making $50,000 a month.
Right.
He had stayed in the business of selling door to door, but now he was the big boss.
Right.
And he had done very well for himself. And I said, "Hey, I'm doing good, but you're doing very well, right? And what are your secrets?" And then he gave me a few books, Rich Dad Poor Dad, read this book, and you read that book, and you read this book, and that book, and this book. And then we fast forward, and a friend of mine said, "You need to get into real estate."
Right. And what year was that?
This was in 2001.
Okay.
A friend of mine, good friend of mine. He had
a couple years in the accounting.
Couple of years, yeah.
Yep.
And we were both tax auditors, and that's how I connected with Paco years later.
That's right.
When I saw that video, he was a compliance, and I was an auditor, and I connected with that.
That's right.
So then he told me, "You need to get in." And this Mario West. He said, "Alex," he said, "you need to go get your real estate license. This is legalized mafia." I go, "What? Legalized mafia?" He's like, "Dude, you got to get in business." So I get into business in 2005. Right from the beginning, I go get my broker's license, start my own thing, right? I should have went and worked for somebody for at least a year like me, but I didn't. Right. I dive right into it, and I did really well. First year made like 150 grand. Second year did like 200, and the market crashed.
And what happens when that happens?
So when the market crashed, then it's like I'm thinking to myself, okay. Then I went back to all those books, and Zig Ziglar.
Yep.
One of the things he says, give to as many people what they want, you will get what you want.
If you give it, exactly.
Yeah. So what you said earlier about contribution, I believe in that.
Yeah.
But when I give, I don't expect anything back in return because I know it'll come back. But one thing I do expect back in return is if I'm loyal to somebody, I expect that in return.
Right.
Loyalty is a two-way street for me. So, and then I'm thinking, what can I do? What can I do? And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to get into foreclosure prevention. But I'm not going to, there was companies out there charging $5,000 to do a loan modification.
Right.
I went and took classes. I'm like, I'm just going to give it away.
So this was the opportunity.
This is 2008.
Yeah.
Right? So my cousin, Sue, she owned the TV station. Right? She came to I started doing workshops, and she would come to them. HUD counselors and all these people would be there. She came, and she told me, she said, "This is awesome. You're great at. Why don't you come on air?" So I went on air. And right about that time, my mom had been diagnosed with cancer, colon cancer. So we went back and forth on talking. So literally, I went on air. I believe it was November 18.
Right.
The next day, my mom passed. Right. I mean, it was really hard.
And that was a big moment.
It was a big moment, and my mom was everything to me.
That's why I said that, because I know you. I've talked to you about that. Yeah.
So she was like a mom and a dad. The reason why, Jared, I'm so close to my kids is because I want them to know the difference between a mom and a dad.
Right.
Right. But my mom was everything to me.
I was raised by a single mom too. Same thing, playing the role of both.
Yeah, playing the role of both.
And she would have told you every day of the week, there is a role for both. You just step in when you have to.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that it's ideal. You step in when you have to.
That's right.
So you do that. when did you actually form, your team? Like you have what you call now your Navy SEALs team.
Yep.
I know you're looking at doing, various things,
Yep.
whatever. But like, when did you actually start realizing that this needs to be more than me?
So 2010, I hired my first agent, but I was still doing my prevention seminars and all that stuff. I didn't really take it serious till about 2013. This kid comes to my event with his father. They sit at the event, they check it out, and his father was losing his house. It was literally 1 week away from losing.
Right.
So after the event, he comes up and he goes, "Why are you doing all this for free? Give and you shall receive." And I said, "You know what? I'm going to connect you with the HUD counseling." I connected his dad with HUD counseling, and he went in there. He was able to save the house. This kid comes up. I went back to the office like a couple weeks later. I see that I walked in and I see a brand new cell phone. And I'm like, "Who brought this?" And they're like, this young guy came by and dropped this off as a thank you. I called him, and his name is Mike, really good guy. And I said, "Mike," I go, "Thank you very much." And me and him got closer and closer. And I said, "You know what? You will be great at this." So he came on, and that was the beginning of me building my team. Because from 2008 until 2013,
right,
I had about 175,000, which I turned over 2.5 million by buying and flipping. In the Bay Area, you can buy houses for 40,000. That's how I was able to survive.
Amazing.
By buying and flipping, right?
Right.
So
you did what you had to do to try to,
Then in 2013, I put that on hold, and I started building my team.
That's awesome.
And then I started building and building and building, and just taking.
Tell me a little bit about in the short time we have left here. Like, tell me a little bit about the production of your team. You do the Navy SEALs team.
Yes.
Loyalty is everything. These people are like your family, their community. I've met them. I get that. Tell me a little bit about the production of your team. How's your team doing?
So,
tell me a little bit.
So we have 6 agents. We've done about close to 18 million already. 75% of that comes from me because I am the rainmaker.
Yep.
And we have over 300 5-star reviews online.
Yep.
So if you Google me online, you'll see our production.
Yep.
But the thing about me is that I could make that production way more. But because of the fact that my kids are really small, 4 and 7, and I want to make sure that I'm spending time with my kids. So, and me and
For you, it's not just about success. Success without being able to be that dad is just...
Because remember, that experience that I had as a kid, I promised myself my children are not going to go through
Alex,
this.
we're very similar in that way, right? Like, I mean, I met my father when I was 12 years old.
Yep.
Now we're buddies. Now we kind of know each other. But that kind of absolutely changes you from the perspective of you either copy that and you go, well, I guess that's what the world is.
Right.
Or you say, I'm going to make sure that my kids never know what that is. And what it does is it turns you into the greatest thing that ever happened to them because you want to be a part of that.
That's it.
That's awesome. So you do that. You've got your team. You've got this put together. You've got the real reason that I really wanted to have you on is just to kind of tell that story. Like, it's I mean, you coach with us. Like, everybody has excuses and they've got all these different reasons for why they can or can't do something. And I think it's really inspiring for people to hear someone that goes, from Iran to coming over and still having that entrepreneurial spirit, whether it's as a 10-year-old, an 11-year-old, whatever. But what I really love about you is it's not just the success of that and then building the team and doing those, but it's what you just said there. It's the kids, understand what it is that you want and then build around that. Hey, I could work 24/7 and go make this bigger and go do whatever, but what good is that if I'm ultimately not able to live this time of my life with my kids when that's going to end eventually? You'll always have these other times when you can go crazy and work 20, whatever. But I love that about you. So I want to thank you for coming on here, man. You know how I feel about you. That's why you're here. That's why you're on here.
Thank you.
I think you're an amazing story for so many people that are listening. So, guys, how can people connect with you if they want to connect with you?
Connect with Alex.com.
Look at that, man. You're following right in. Does that sound...
My mentor sitting right here.
Sound familiar, guys? All right. Connect with Alex.com, just like it sounds, right? CONNECT with Alex, ALEX.com.